Good morning, beloveds. Grand rising. Happy new moon in Scorpio. We've made it out the other side of the eclipse, and I would love to hear how you all are doing, how you're processing, and what has grown into full awareness, or at least into insights at this point. As we've crossed through the major portion of the threshold, now it's like integrating what it is that we have learned. What have you learned during this eclipse? Ooh. So as we are right, the new moon was last night. So as we are crossing through this new moon portal, Scorpio being a sign of depth, of darkness, secrecy, passion, zest for life, sexuality, all of that is, for me, been showing up as passion, showing up as zeal. But also in like a turning point in some of the things I had been investigating and coming to understand through the eclipse, just about power. Scorpio is a power sign. It's also it's a water element. So you tend to find that the power is hidden in the emotions in the sign of Scorpio. So let me know how you're doing. What's presenting, and let's tune in using these oracle decks to receive the most insight for what is presenting with this current energetic theme with this new moon. So just calling on the purest form of insight and truth, asking for a neutral lens in presenting the wisdom of the energy coming through the Scorpio new moon to best facilitate healing and open vision, deepening awareness, so that we may walk a path that is consistent with who we are at our deepest level. So it is. So it is. All right, so I feel to start us off, we're going to work with our Earth Warrior deck and let that be our initial pull. If you're new, I always pre-shuffle my decks and then some cards jump out, but I always pre-shuffle my decks. So I don't do it during the reading. And we have this power card, El-Haz, Divine Might Foretold. This feels very promising, as the last few readings, the energy has been really challenging, which, that's kind of the nature of eclipses, this shedding and transformation. The other thing about Scorpio is that Scorpio is the sign of transformation. This is the time of year where we start to go through that metamorphosis. We go through the underworld and the death of something, and then we allow ourselves to be reborn on the other side, which is so poetic because it precedes entering winter, which is the ultimate transformation, the ultimate decay and deconstruction, to the point where we become pure potentiality, so we may be reborn into the next vital creation. El-Haz, this card states that you know what is correct, and you understand that any gain which comes from denying your values and compromising yourself creates a loss of soul. There are times when it may seem as though people who act without integrity are obtaining benefit without adverse repercussions. Life can seem unfair if you limit yourself to a strictly human perspective. Yet nothing escapes the attention of the spiritual worlds. Restorative action and balancing fairness is always in action at a higher level according to divine timing and wisdom. Stay true to your integrity. Put your faith in divine justice, and you will win in a way that brings benefit to many. This feels relative to the work that we've been doing around boundaries. That was a great theme during and leading up to the eclipses, is this boundaries. Where do we allow ourselves to be swayed and influenced, and where do we give away our power? Where have we given away our power, and where are we reclaiming it? Where are we saying yes, and where are we saying no? And that being that it's coming from a place that is invested in self-care and self-love, not necessarily self-preservation, but just honoring what is actually needed. And that requires some surrender. And I think that can be kind of the understanding of surrender can be tricky, because sometimes it can be associated with thinking that we just stand back and do nothing. But actually surrendering can be like the part of you that knows you need to go do the hard thing, and you must surrender to actually taking action. So this shall unfold through the rest of the reading. It's also saying don't let yourself down with behavior or attitudes that are unworthy of you. So it's like there's awareness, a growing awareness of the things that need to be done according to what you evaluated during the eclipse. There are actions that need to be taken, and changes that need to be made in order to realign yourself with a new outcome. And yet we are integrating it, and maybe there are still some of these old patterns that have to die away. I can feel that deep in myself. And so as we're in this new moon phase, we plant these seeds of intention. So my suggestion with that is, whatever it is that you've been working with through the eclipse, at least if you haven't already, start to establish goals and then write out the steps that will take you to those goals. And then if you're already there with this new moon, what action step can you take now? Even if it's just a small thing. So let's say you're wanting to start some new routine, some new daily routine. Start with just doing one thing consistently today, and make that commitment to do that thing. It's helpful to design it at the same time every day if you can. So even something as simple as choosing to brush your teeth at the same time every day, and then adding something to that. So if you do that at the same time every day, you'll build that muscle memory. You'll make it easier for yourself. Oh, okay. This is also related to our work. Most of you that are watching this are healers, are light workers, are those who are aligned with service through the heart. And there's something in this that's very relative to, if you're looking for your place in the world, both in community as well as through service, career, occupation, that these things that you're currently being asked to change, the things that were illuminated during the eclipse and the full moon, that even if you don't see it now, this is going to set the stage for you coming into your power along your career path. Because really, as you become more of who you are, as you start to merge with your authentic self, you begin to awaken an understanding of how to respond to the world through who you are. And that can translate into things that you do, but it's because of who you are. So let's just continue here. This I've pulled this card that it's safe for you to be powerful. Your spiritual power brings great blessings and loving service to the divine. So really owning your yeses and your nos again, owning these boundaries, owning these things that you became aware of or you're becoming aware of, and continuing to override the self-limiting thought patterns and self-doubt that dysregulate you and even dismember you, break you away from the part of you that knows the way forward. And it's balancing with this card of cancel, clear, delete, saying use only positive words and thoughts as they're rapidly manifesting into form. Ask the angels to cancel the effects of past negative thinking. So if you're still struggling with like these old patterns seeping in, old behaviors and thoughts seeping in, might be time to do a little bit more on the metaphysical planes and in your prayer, and asking for the support and help outside of yourself, strengthening that connection with your soul by choosing to lean on this unseen angelic realm to hold space for what you're becoming and to hold space for what is decomposing. Joining these two is the upper world. There's something in this image here. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe it's the color blue that feels resonant. Blue being a color of divine will, and also the blueprint. So the original architecture of creation, of form, I should say. So with this oracle, angels, divine helpers, the ancient ones, and all varieties of luminous beings populate the upper world. It is the place where you go to retrieve your destiny and find out who you will become. Discover your great potentials and undreamt possibilities. It is also the place where the spirit of the dead arrive when they complete their journey to the light. The upper world is calling you to step into your fully realized self. Clear distractions so that you can move into a higher destiny. Do not fall to the temptations to craft a slightly more improved version of yourself. What you perceive as a problem or an obstacle is in fact the irritation you need to take the great leap. Remember, you cannot cross the Grand Canyon in 2 small jumps. Ask your divine helpers for guidance. And if this oracle has already spoken to you, do not ask for more guidance. Take what has been offered. Now you must deal with the lethargy and idleness. While support for a new destiny is not quite in place, a new destination is available to you if you act now. So this is implying to not make these little adjustments, maybe the way that you have before, but really go for the gold. To dream bigger dreams, to take bigger leaps of faith. There's more to come. Let us see. As I look at this too, it feels like this first quarter of the moon is going to bring up a lot. As I say that, we pull the card of perseverance. I know that I can do whatever I set my mind to. I hear establishing routines. Establishing routines. And consistency is key to that. Being really consistent. Even if you're not, let's say you have a day where it's just hard for you to like really show up fully. As long as you show up. Give yourself that grace, but still show up. Show up when you don't want to show up. And that is surrender. Doing the thing that the body, the mind doesn't feel like doing, maybe. And I want to add a little note to that there's a difference between the wisdom of the body that tells us that something that we are doing or that we will do will actually be destructive. First, the body is tired and needs to move through an old energetic pattern that makes it feel resistive. And that goes for the mind too. Those two are inseparable. But surrendering to the will, we could say the will of God, the will of the soul, the will of the higher self, the will of the Tao, the path. Get grounded, empaths, highly sensitive, connect with nature. Spend as much time as you can bringing your body to the earth. We've had a lot of geomagnetic changes as well through this eclipse, a lot of solar storms. And when we do that, there's incredible fluctuations with the electromagnetic field of Earth, with the Schumann resonance. And so we actually have to connect into that grid and stabilize our system because it'll bounce for a while. And what's happening is as this light from the great sun, from the Christ, comes through our sun and through our solar system, our Earth receives these impulses. And those impulses move through the electromagnetic field, through the heart of our own Earth, through the consciousness of this collective Earth. And because we are an extension of that consciousness and let's say, part of the neural networks of the consciousness, that these upgrades have to come through our biofield, our electromagnetic system. But if we're not fully plugged in and receiving those updates, it can be like when your internet's slow or when it goes out. So if you hook into this system, and in particular, if you work with the mycelial network, then you may find an extra benefit in allowing that process to flow smoothly without interruptions. And it starts to purge out of the consciousness the distortions in the field, returning us back to our blueprint, our original matrix. Or I should say, it's the original matrix, but it's also an upgraded matrix. And I'm not going to go into detail on that. If you get it, you get it. You're being called to ground to ensure that your luminous field is clear and your inner well is full. If you're not grounded, it is all too easy to get swept up in other people's energy and mistake it for your own. Your boundaries will become blurred as you are absorbing the energies around you and struggling to define what is their stuff and what is your stuff. Preach! I feel that so much. Not as much for myself as much as observing it in other people. And this is like empath empowerment 101. Is really getting to know and understand what is me and what is other. And that requires spending time with yourself in isolation so that you don't get interference. So if that's you, if you kind of feel that you get confused with other people's energy, you need to build yourself a contained practice of meditation, of coming to know who you are and what you are, and then also having this it's a great ritual to check in. I'm like tripping all over my words today. To check in the morning before you begin your day, before you interact with other people. Check in, do a body scan so that you can determine what your baseline is. Because only if you know where you are at, when things start to change, can you assess that there's a change. You can't do that if you don't establish a baseline first. So if that's you, you can even go into my playlist under meditations, and there is a body scanning meditation that I have recorded just for you. The Great Mother has arrived. Nuestra Abuela. And we also have this cracked open. It's happening for you, not to you. So I'm sure some of you may still be feeling the sensitivity of everything that has been presented and unwinding and cracked open, probably, during the eclipse. So this is a Mayan goddess, and she's a protector of new mothers and their babies. She guards the temezcal, the purifying sweat bath. When she appears, she's here as an advisor to remind you to keep your feet on the ground and take care of yourself as well as those around you. She reminds you to listen and trust your inner wisdom. She invites you to remember that with every experience you become wiser. Trust yourself, forgive yourself, and surrender to her loving embrace. This is following our last reading that was about sacrificing your self-doubt, sacrificing the part of yourself that undermines your own wisdom. I can say I have felt this really directly with this new moon myself, and that I've tracked it all the way back to childhood of really not being seen for who I was and the wisdom that I carry as a sovereign soul, being seen and heard and validated. And it's like I now have this perfect situation that somewhat mimics my childhood and somewhat mimics interactions with my parents, that is allowing me to reclaim my own inner knowing and being, no matter what the outer influences may say. There's a part of me that really is learning through having to revisit that dynamic in a different way, of trusting what I know to be totally and completely right and true for me. The ever unfolding rose. This is the way of the consciousness and the heart of consciousness and the consciousness of the heart. The challenge of life is to keep your heart open when you most want to close it. And I can say, within what I just mentioned, this dynamic of revisiting these lifestyle patterns and disempowerment, self-doubt, all of these things that are coming forward. That was one of the things I noticed. It was like, it's okay, heart. I know you want to close. Stay open. Stay open. And it takes some real conscious effort to do that. To let life crack you open, to open through hurt and loss, to allow what is falling away to fall. Being human is a courageous act, a life well lived, full of loss and tragedy as much as triumphs and adventures. Wherever you find yourself at the moment, life is coaxing you to keep your heart open no matter how much it hurts, to continually unfold, to let life crack you open. Perhaps you are going through a difficult time right now, Instead of cursing the difficulty, see it as a blessing. To open yourself up to the truth that perhaps, as hard as it may be, life is happening for you, not to you. And one day, in the not too distant future, you may just bless the thing that broke you down and cracked you open, because the world needs you open. Now is the time to go gently, treat yourself like a tender, sweet baby, to wrap yourself in a blanket and trust that the mother has you cradled in her arms. The seas may not all be smooth sailing, but you're safe and you're held. One day, not too far from today, you will look back at the transformation and be blown away by the poetry of life. Everything is going to be okay. And as I was speaking with someone last week who will be entering a challenging situation, the mantra that was coming through was that when we hit those places, and we can very easily become susceptible to like a victimhood personality, we can use this mantra that I understand that this feels uncomfortable in my body right now, but I trust that this is the perfect situation for me. And you can revise that to serve and resonate in you as feels most aligned. But just this confirmation that your soul does know the way. That's what the mantra is doing, essentially, is saying, even though my personality does not like this and it doesn't feel good, and that means I'm having to revisit all of this stuff that maybe has been put on a back burner, I trust and know that this is the perfect situation for me. And you'll be surprised at how much that can create some ease and widen your capacity to meet what you are resisting. To remember these beloveds, these angels and ascended masters and saints and ancestors of the light that walk with you, that walk with all of humanity, and calling upon them to be with you in those moments where you feel that you're struggling and the personality is taking over. And when I say personality, I'm using that interchangeably as ego. So the part that forgets that it's one. Calling on those forces to be with you and to guide you and to help you rest into grief, to help you rest into your grief, to help you rest into the earth, into the energy of the mother, who she holds the child. She holds the child as it's being born, as she holds the child that is also dying and crossing the threshold. And we're moving out of the last layers of the fall, which in Chinese medicine it's grief. It's really extracting, being with all of the levels of that and extracting the nutrition of that experience. And it requires a great deal of perseverance. And so you may feel a little fatigued right now just from crossing through the portal of the eclipse and reaching like this like the last leg of this journey. It's the last quarter of the journey, and finding the rituals that will keep you present and keep you grounded and stable and reminded that you are a infinite spark of the divine, which contains all of the wisdom, all of the knowledge, all of the knowing, and that you have chosen a path on this earth that will liberate you from continuing to fall traps to your human nature. And ever increasingly remembering that you are not separate from your creator and creatress, that you are that you are the image, and therefore you have that power to change the direction and vibration of your life by encountering these points that are familiar from the past and making a different choice just through your response. Not reacting, but rather responding and starting to break away from ancestral patterns and collective dramas. I'm feeling into if there's anything else here. Reminded again that if you are going through a transition with your work and your livelihood, that what it is that you're truly desiring to show up in exchange in the world, in career and service and occupation, is coming through the transformation of who you are being, through the person that you are becoming. And that once you are connected with that which is unchanging within you, which is your soul, which is the light of your being, then the outward manifestation will start to match what it is that you are on the inside. You will begin to reflect and call forth the opportunities to present in your most true and authentic nature. So I just want to again highlight that if you're struggling and worrying about that, understand that this is the schooling required for you to graduate and enter that space of service isn't quite the right word, but I'll use that. And I feel so much peace in this reading, relief, and reminding to take the little steps. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't try to do it all at once. Even look at your patterns of doing things like that. Do you get really gung-ho and then it all fizzles out? Can you start to look at what is the patterns that have prevented you from going the distance? Do you bite off more than you can chew? Can you reserve some of that energy and that emphasis and narrow it down to direct it in a way that's really concentrated so that you can produce a really refined result? I hope that this resonates for you. Would love to hear any messages that you received, any ways that this applies to you. And as always, if you like this, please hit like so that other people can enjoy this, and share if you find that this was helpful for you and might help anyone else as we move through the Scorpio new moon. And thank you always for showing up in all of the ways that you do. And until we meet again, keep it pure and stay simple. Forever.